I got to be honest with you. Wellness has gotten too complicated. I don't know about anybody else out there, but every single time I turn on the television, I listen to a podcast, I listen to a radio station, somebody is telling me about some amazing new health wellness thing. And I've got to be honest with you, it's confusing as hell. I have no idea what's going on half the time. I don't know if I'm supposed to have a green drink, a sauna, or hydrate. And so for me, what I decided to do was I wanted to look at what are the basics? How do we get back to the basics of wellness? How do we balance our bodies so we're not worried about green drinks? We're worried about water intake, right? And so what I decided to do was look around and try to understand a bit more. I was reading a book called Life Gives to the Giver by my friend Joe Polish. And what Joe said was he said that there are these things in life, he called them dominoes. And so once you gain this skill set, this domino would knock into another one, releasing another skill set, which releases another skill set, which releases another skill set. Very similar to what we learn about in entrepreneurship and things like that, right? Is once you learn basic accounting, now you can start to do more complicated stuff. And so I decided to try to figure out what was the basics of wellness. What were the dominoes of wellness? And I came up with three. And the reason I came up with these three in particular was because I decided to think about what are the three things that our bodies absolutely, positively cannot live without, right? Under a time strain. So number one, I started thinking about breathing, right? So we all need air, and there's a lot of it out there, but believe it or not, people don't breathe correctly. Now, you might be saying to yourself, what is this guy talking about? I breathe automatically, like my body breathes. I guess I'm doing it right. In truth, many people are shallow breathers. Many people actually don't know, but you can use particular types of breath work that can help lower your anxiety, that can help give you energy, that can help you focus. So there are a lot of things that you can do where people might take external supplements or medications to help them focus. I can teach you through this breath work how to do that without necessarily having medications. And I thought about breathing in general, so I decided to look up who had held their breath the longest. It's kind of interesting. Believe it or not, there are these people who are deep divers. They're free diving and they go deep, deep, deep down. And then there are people who just put their head in a pool and like they time them. So the record is, believe it or not, if you fill the lungs with O3 air, so added oxygen air, people can stick their head in a pool for 22 minutes. Like I'd never even heard of something like that. I know it's remarkable, right? But on average, the average person can't hold their breath for 60 seconds. That's interesting. Why? Because we're not really thinking about breathing, right? Next, I started thinking about hydration. Believe it or not, you can go almost 3 days without water. But I want to be clear, it is a terrible, terrible existence. By the third day, you're pretty much going to die without water. So I figured that was one of the basics. So I've got breathing is a basic, and I've got hydration as a basic. To be fair, I'm a sleep doctor and I focus a lot on sleep. And I got to be honest with you, the world's record is 11 days without sleep. But that individual ended, I know, awful, right? That individual ended up hallucinating, barely able to speak. It was a mess. And so I started to say to myself, if I can show everyone simple ways to start and complete in a positive way, breathing, hydration, and sleep, we finally have a starting line for wellness because so many people don't know where to start on their wellness journey. Do I buy a sauna? Do I do a cold plunge? Do I join a gym? Honestly, I want you to spend no money. I want you to simply learn how to do three things that you already have to do, but do them so much better that you benefit. And now you're on your wellness journey. Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, and I'm known as the Sleep Doctor. I have a PhD in clinical psychology, and I am one of 168 people in the world who have taken the medical boards and passed without going to medical school. I've been an actively practicing sleep specialist for 25 years. And you know what? I love sleep and sleep medicine. I have so much fun with it. And my goal is not necessarily to tell you you've got apnea, because there are plenty of people out there who can tell you you have apnea. My goal is to tell you how to have preventative measures to make sure that you get the best sleep of your life. Why? Because most people, when they show up in my office, they already have a problem. They've got sleep apnea, they've got insomnia. I never get to them before I can. In my new book, Sleep, Drink, Breathe, my goal is to teach people exactly how to do this so you don't end up in my office, hopefully, if we can avoid that at all costs, right? And I love what I do, but I'd much rather not see you in my office and see you out and about and asking some casual questions about sleep than the other. And by the way, sleep isn't the only area that I feel like people need a little bit of help in, but hydration and breath work as well. So many people don't even realize that they're dehydrated. The statistics are quite alarming, believe it or not. And I'm going to be showing you a personalized formula just for you that you can now figure out exactly how much water to drink and when to drink it. That's the big problem, is people just forget to drink. And so I've developed a sleep, drink, breathe plan in my book. And in 3 weeks, I will have you hydrated, sleeping, and breathing like a champ. One of the fundamental aspects that I'm known for is the idea of chronotypes. Now, chronotypes might not be a term you've ever heard, but you know about this concept. If you've ever been called an early bird or know somebody that's a night owl, those are chronotypes. Here's the crazy part. It turns out they're genetic. I can look at your 23andMe data or your Ancestry.com data, and I can tell you exactly which one you are. It's quite amazing. And once I find out that information, I can actually tell you the perfect time of day to go to bed, to wake up, to be intimate with your partner, to have a cheeseburger, to ask your boss for a raise. It's unbelievable. It's the ultimate cheat code for life. Once you know what your chronotype is, early bird, night owl, somebody in the middle, or someone with an irregular schedule, you will then be able to have all kinds of things available to you. What do I mean by that? Like, why is it even important? Follow my logic. If you're an early bird, you wake up at 5:45 in the morning and your melatonin turns off then, and your cortisol and adrenaline turns on. Then you go through a very predictable cycle all day long, and then you stop at the end of the day. But let's say that you are married to a night owl, and that person tries to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning with you. Unfortunately, genetically speaking, their melatonin doesn't turn off until 8 o'clock. And then they have a very predictable schedule. So oftentimes we are out of sync with our chronotypes trying to do things, and it's not particularly efficient. But when you know your chronotype, you can change the timing of your activity to when your body naturally has that high level of hormones and do that activity so much better. Everything from exercise to into feeding to actually spending time with your family members. All of it can be revealed once you know your chronotype. Here's the big secret. Once you know your chronotype, if you sleep within that chronotypical swim lane, everything gets better and easier. I started doing this myself when I first started learning about chronotypes, and believe it or not, now I need less sleep. You heard it, entrepreneurs. Do you want to have less sleep, but still get the amount of sleep that you need, still get the quality that you are looking for? I'm pretty sure that you do. By sleeping based on your chronotype, you actually can give yourself more time back in your day. It's kind of crazy. I've been working with entrepreneurs for a very long time. I work with a dear friend of mine, Dan Sullivan, over at Strategic Coach, and he only focuses on entrepreneurs. And let me tell you, you guys and gals have had some very unique issues when it comes to sleep. One of the things that I like to do, especially with my entrepreneurs, is try to figure out the difference between passion and anxiety. So one of the things that happens to many of my entrepreneurs is they wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, their brain starts running, and I'm trying to decide, are you just passionate about your idea and can't wait to get to work? Or are you anxious about cash flow and employee problems and lawsuits and can't get back to sleep? And so there are different things that we can do for different people, as described in the book, who are entrepreneurs. So it's a lot of fun when you start to think about, from an entrepreneurial perspective, what's going on. One other topic that I think is interesting, just comparing entrepreneurship and sleep, is looking at some of the terminology. So as an example, let's look at compounding interest. We all know what that is. That's where you put money in the bank and it stays there consistently and starts to grow over time. I would argue sleep is just like cash flow. We want to compound that interest of our sleep by being consistent and putting in that amount every single night at the same time. So that way we get the benefits in the long term of compounding. What are the benefits of compounding your sleep? Let me tell you, as an entrepreneur, you're going to have a time where you're going to need to go out on a late dinner with a client, and it's going to go way past your normal bedtime. And you're going to be able to snap back the next day, no problem, because you've been compounding your sleep by being consistent with it all this time. And so when something goes awry, you have a late dinner, you have an emergency, something with a client, because you've been compounding your sleep, you don't lose that much because you're right back in the game again. So believe it or not, there's a lot of similarities between entrepreneurship and health. One of my favorite tricks that I teach every single entrepreneur, CEO, and founder is called the Napa Latte. Now, this is fun, but let me give you the science behind it. When a cell eats a piece of glucose, something comes out the back end. One of those things is called adenosine. Adenosine works its way through your system, goes to a very specific receptor site in your brain, and then adenosine accumulates, and you get sleepier and sleepier and sleepier. If you look at the molecular structure of adenosine and the molecular structure of caffeine, they're off by one single molecule. Kind of crazy when you think about the thing that your brain makes, and the substance outside is literally one molecule difference. But here's why it's important. Because when you drink a cup of coffee before you take a nap, which is what I'm going to teach you how to do, adenosine gets blocked. So you've got this adenosine sitting in your head. What I want you to do is go and get a single cup of drip black coffee. No cream, no sugar. We don't want any stomach upset. We don't want any extra calories. Throw in 3 ice cubes merely to cool the liquid down. Slug it, drink it as fast as you can, then immediately close your eyes for 20 minutes, not longer. Set an alarm and wake up. You will have burned through enough adenosine so that you're not going to feel sleepy. Caffeine fits into the receptor site because it's only off by one molecule, fits in, locks in perfectly, blocks that adenosine, and you are good for 4 hours, my friend. Another thing that I think is really important that I participate in is giving back and understanding what's going on in the community. I have had a really wonderful opportunity to work at several homeless shelters, teaching people how to sleep on the street, which is not an easy task. I'll be honest with you. I worked with a group of children who were homeless, and they asked me how to teach them how to sleep on the street. And one of the children raised their hand and they asked a question that pretty much brought me to tears, which was, how do you sleep through gunshots? That was a tough one. After we all cried, I sat back and I taught them how to sleep through gunshots. You think about, where's the sound? Is it getting louder? That means it's getting closer. That means you're not safe. That means you need to leave. If it's getting further away, you're going to be okay, but you need to find an adult and make sure that you're safe. And so we start going through these types of things. And when you do this type of community work, you never expect a question like, how do you sleep through gunshots? So I was humbled by that. And sometimes it takes me a second to remember how good I have it. most of the time. And so it's great to be able to give back to the community in those types of ways and teaching some of those people how to sleep a little bit better, how to drink a little bit better, and how to breathe. So I've had this dream for a very long time, which is I'm hopeful that everybody on earth could get a good night's sleep on the same night. Could you imagine what we could accomplish the next day? Could you imagine the peace that could come from it, the innovation that could come from it, the economic prosperity, the love, all of it? All we all need is a good night's rest. I'm pretty convinced of it. So if you want to find out more about your chronotype, head on over to chronoquiz.com, or you can go over to thesleepdoctor.com/book. And then you can take the quiz there, learn more about my book. And by the way, if you order the book ahead of time, it's kind of like a ticket to be able to come to several seminars with me. I'm doing all kinds of fun stuff. You have access to me, maybe ask me a few questions, things like that. I'm really interested in what's going on with everybody out there, and I'm excited for this. So if you can, swing on over to chronoquiz.com or thesleepdoctor.com/book and check it all out.